Welcome to the Owner Identity Podcast, where we empower men experiencing same-sex attraction to live a life of purpose and possibility through the power of Christ and for the glory of God. My name is Jason Meller. I am so glad you're here. Come on in, have a seat. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. In late spring, we had one of those hot, bright Texas days where the sun feels like it's pressing down. My 5-year-old son, Lane, was out on the soccer field running after the ball. He was sluggish at first. He's always been more sensitive to the heat and the light than other boys. But the moment he got near the ball, something just clicked. He turned it on, he was giving it his all, doing his best, and you could tell he was having fun. But here's what struck me. When it was his turn to rotate off the field, he didn't try to hide his exhaustion. He just let himself fall to the ground, flat on his back, his head on my lap, arms stretched out like he didn't have a care in the world. And then, just as easily, he sat up, moved over to the bench, and leaned his head on the shoulder of the boy next to him, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They started talking. I couldn't help but smile. He wasn't worried about how he looked or what anyone thought of him. He just assumed that he was accepted. It didn't even occur to him that he might not be. And as I watched him, I got a little jealous. I couldn't help but think back to when I was his age. I played soccer for 1 year, just one. And I remember how different it felt for me. I wasn't out there thinking, here I am. I was thinking, how do I need to be? Every moment on that field, I was filtering the world through the lens of, what do they think of me? Am I good enough? Am I doing this right? Am I kicking the ball towards the right goal? I kept my distance from the other boys and from the world, really. I had this filter that the world came through before it came to me. And I thought, subconsciously even, if they only knew me partially, if I could just hold back, then maybe they're going to fill in the gaps with what I need to be, what they expect of me. Maybe they'll assume the best. And I didn't dare let them see all of me in case I would come up too short. The thing is, that way of thinking didn't stay on the soccer field. It followed me. It became my normal. And even as an adult, I found myself asking, how do I need to be? Instead of just showing up as I was. In meetings, in friendships, even in moments where I should have felt safe, I was still holding back, still trying to figure out what version of me would be most acceptable. Can you relate to that? It's exhausting, isn't it? Living like that. And yet, for so many of us, it's all we have ever known. Man, but watching my son that day, it was clear that he didn't carry that strong filter I had. He doesn't deeply question whether he's enough. He just assumes he is. And he's so fun to watch. But today, I am more like him than the boy that I was when I was stuck in my head. How did I get there? How do we go back to that place of just being? And that's what I want to talk about today. How we unlearn the habit of overcompensating, of performing, of needing to be extra. How we learn to just be. By the end of this episode, my hope is that you'll feel a little lighter, a little freer, and a lot more connected to the truth of who God made you to be. So, let's talk first about the pressure to perform. For so many of us, that pressure to perform starts early. For me, it was on the soccer field. Maybe it was the way you were raised, hearing messages like, you need to try harder. My dad would say, good, better, best, never let them rest, until the good is better and the better is best. Did anybody else's dad say that? I don't know. It stressed me out. Maybe the culture around you is telling you that your worth is tied to your achievements, your image, or your ability to fit into a certain mold. For men like us navigating same-sex attraction, man, the pressure can feel even heavier. You might feel like you have to prove your masculinity, prove your faith, prove that you're good enough despite your struggles. I felt that way. And, over time, that pressure becomes so ingrained in our subconscious that we don't even realize it's there. We just feel this constant need to do more, to be more, and to earn our place in the world. It stressed me out thinking of being myself and believing that was enough. I was more comfortable, even though it was difficult, when I was more than I felt like I was equipped to be in the moment. But the thing is, God never asked us to perform for his love. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, For it is by grace that you have been saved through faith. And this is not from yourself. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. His love is not something we earn. It's something we receive. Where in your life have you been feeling the pressure to perform right now? And what's it costing you? Your peace, your authenticity, your connection to God? Because at the heart of the need to perform is often a deep fear. What if I'm not enough? What if people see the real me and decide I'm not worthy of love, respect, or belonging? I remember being in college and, man, I was hurting. I was anxious, depressed, troubled by my same-sex attractions, and just overwhelmed by life. But at the same time, I felt this immense pressure to perform, to share the gospel, to show others the abundant life that God gives to those who love and trust him. And don't get me wrong. I believed that in that abundant life, I wanted it for myself. But the anxiety, like the depression and the fear that I was experiencing, man, those are so heavy. It felt like I was carrying the weight of the world and I couldn't put it down. And I didn't know how to reconcile that with the life I felt like I was supposed to be living, serving, telling people about Christ and my faith. I wanted to do all those things, but I felt so overwhelmed with these other feelings that I didn't feel like I was allowed to look at with curiosity and compassion. Later I would come to realize that I had experienced trauma growing up, and that trauma had planted stories in my mind. Stories about who I was, about my worth, about how I needed to show up in the world, and those stories were making life nearly impossible. I couldn't ignore it anymore and just be a good Christian. The thing is, I didn't feel like I had permission to just pause and focus on healing. It felt wrong, like I was being selfish or unfaithful somehow to my Christian faith. I thought, if I'm not out there serving, sharing, doing, then what am I even worth? I didn't think it was okay to just be broken, to just be stuck, to just be in need. But what I've learned is that sometimes you've got to allow yourself to just be in that place in order to move beyond it. What helped me was this story in the Bible about the Israelites returning to Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity. They weren't focused on growing the nation or serving. They were just rebuilding. They worked day and night to rebuild the city walls, and they defended the city as they did it. A hammer in one hand, a sword in the other. And that story gave me the permission to get into recovery, to take focused time to look at what was going on in my life. It said, it's okay to pause. It's okay to focus on healing. It's okay to rebuild. I had to decide that getting clear on God's love for me, like really believing that he views me with love, was the most important thing that I could do. And that meant letting myself just be in the mess, in the rebuilding, in the uncertainty. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. It felt wrong at first, like I was letting people down. But looking back, I know it was the most faithful thing I could have done. So that's one example of the power of allowing ourselves to just be. So what would it look like for you to let go of the fear of not being enough? What would it feel like to trust that God's grace is sufficient for you, just as you are? Another story, I'll never forget the first time I had the feeling throughout my whole body of unconditional love. Like not just in my head, but in my whole body. I was sitting in a chair in a circle of people in a 12-step recovery group. And it was surreal, this feeling of these people that some of them I knew well, some of them I didn't know at all. I felt loved, seen, and accepted in a way I hadn't before. That need for striving in that moment, like it was just gone. And completely in that moment, it wouldn't have even made sense for me to try to prove myself, to perform, to be anything other than who I was. I was just me, present, open, and loved. And let me tell you, that feeling, it changes you. It's like this weight that you didn't even realize you were carrying just falls away. That was my experience. That moment taught me something. When you let go of the need to perform, when you allow others into your life, when you're vulnerable in a safe place, God meets you there. Psalm 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Not do more, not try harder, not fix yourself. Just be still. And in that room that day, I felt permission before that. And that stillness was freedom. Now, I want to take you back to that moment on the soccer field, that first story, when Lane, my son, had just given everything he had out there. He was running, laughing, and playing with such joy and abandon. And then, like I said, when it was time to rest, he didn't hesitate. He collapsed on his back on the grass, arms stretched out with his head on my lap, at peace. No shame, no worry about what anyone thought, just pure freedom. In developing this episode, I let Lane, my son, inspire me. I got creative and developed some tools to help you and me experience more moments of peace. They are practices that you can carry into your life to experience that same kind of freedom that Lane showed me on that field. Let's walk through them together. Tool number 1, I'm calling the flat on your back reflection. Okay, this is about giving yourself permission to rest and release the pressure to perform. So, when you're feeling like you can't just be and you have to be extra and more than enough, find a quiet space where you can just lie down, flat on your back. Man, if you could go outside in some soft grass on a nice, warm, sunny day, I would recommend that. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and ask yourself, what am I carrying right now that I don't need to carry? Where am I trying too hard to prove myself? And as you exhale, just imagine releasing those burdens and letting yourself just be. This isn't just rest. It's a declaration that you don't have to earn your worth. Tool number 2, I call it the bench connection practice. Remember when I said that my son just went up, sat next to his buddies on the bench, leaned his head against his shoulder like it was no thing? Lane didn't hesitate when he was leaning on his teammate's shoulder. And later on, he leaned on mine again. It was a reminder of how powerful it is to let ourselves be seen and supported. Think of one person in your life who feels safe, someone you trust. Reach out to them and share something real about where you're at right now. It could be as simple as, hey, I've been feeling a little overwhelmed lately, and I just want to share that with you. Maybe it's an attraction that you had towards a guy, and it's freaking you out a little bit. Pick up the phone and make a call. And notice how it feels when you do that, to let yourself be seen without filtering or performing. I want you to know that vulnerability is not weakness, it's freedom. Okay, tool number 3. This is the play like a kid exercise. So when I was watching my son play with that joy, he was even like skipping on the field as he was running along. When he'd get close to the ball, he'd skip and then he'd kick it. It reminded me how often we forget just to have fun. Okay, so set aside 15 minutes to do something purely for fun. No agenda, no outcome, just play. And as you play, remind yourself, I don't have to earn this joy. I'm allowed to just be. Okay, tool number 4, the assume acceptance mindset. This might be my favorite of these. So like I said, my son didn't seem to question whether he was loved or accepted. He just assumed that he was. So what if you could do the same? Before entering a social situation, take a moment to pause and repeat this affirmation. I'm already enough. I'm already accepted. And as you interact with others, notice when the urge to perform or prove yourself comes up. Gently remind yourself, I don't need to be extra. I can just be. I believe that mindset shift is really going to change everything about how you show up in the world. So put that into practice, the assume acceptance mindset. Tool number 5 of 5, the God's lap visualization. First thing Lane did when he was exhausted from running on the field is he just fell flat on his back with his head on my lap. I was sitting there in the grass. And it was such a picture of trust and comfort. It reminded me of the kind of peace that we can find in God's presence, the kind where we can just let go, knowing that we're safe, loved, and accepted. And I want to invite you into that same feeling. So take a moment to close your eyes. Picture yourself as a child, tired from the day, climbing into God's lap. Imagine him as a loving father, strong, steady, and full of kindness. Picture his arms wrapping around you, his hand resting gently on your back. See the warmth in his eyes as he looks at you, not with judgment or expectation, but with pure delight. Let yourself feel the safety of that moment, the assurance that you don't have to do anything to earn his love. You're already enough in Christ. When you've put your love and trust in Christ, you're already his. God is the ultimate source of comfort and strength. He's the one who knows every part of you, the good, the messy, the parts of you that you tried to hide. He loves you fully, just as you are. Believe me in this. He's the one who says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. Let yourself rest in that truth. Let yourself feel held by the one who created you, who delights in you, and has good things for you. These tools are invitations to step out of the chaos of striving and into the peace of presence. They're about reclaiming the freedom to rest, to connect, to play, to trust, and to feel loved. Because the truth is, freedom is not something that you have to chase. It's already yours in Christ. You just have to let yourself experience it. Because honestly, the best place to just be is in the presence of God. There's no striving there, no performing, no need to prove yourself. In His presence, you're fully known and fully loved, exactly as you are. Be still and know that I am God. That is an invitation to step out of the chaos of life, out of the noise in your mind, and into the quiet, steady presence of the one who created you. And when you're in His presence, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to fix yourself, figure everything out, or feel a certain way. There's no striving or performing. You just have to show up. And in that stillness, God does the work. He restores. He heals. He reminds you of who you are and whose you are. When was the last time that you allowed yourself to simply be in God's presence? Not asking for anything, not trying to fix anything, just being still with Him. What would it look like to create space for that this week? Maybe it's 5 minutes of quiet in the morning, or a walk where you talk with Him like a best friend. Trust that who you are as you are in Christ is enough, because Christ in you is more than enough. And remember, you don't have to earn God's love. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to be faithful. You just have to show up as you are and let God do the rest. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Please leave a review and a 5-star rating. Here is a review from John. Thank you, Jason, for your podcast. I find your voice and messages calming, comforting, and encouraging, bold and courageous, honest and hopeful. You are a unique and rare voice for another Christian man to hear. I'm thankful to know that another man gets me, and that other Christian men who have similar struggles can live into God's love and acceptance without feeling disqualified. John, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that review. And lastly, to all of you, I want you to know that you aren't defined by how extra you're able to be. You are defined by the one who calls you his, the one who invites you to come to him and just be. You've got this, and God's got you. I'll talk with you soon.